This is going to be a pretty chill. Are we even live yet? Now we're live.
Nope.
Okay. YouTube took forever to send that through. I clicked off the black screen, the intro screen, too fast. So anyway, what's going on, everybody? Welcome into Blazers Surprise Live. Here on a Thursday, we're going to be talking about all the trades that have happened in our mock offseason. That is the plan right now. And yeah, it's going to be a pretty chill, laid-back stream. Going to be about 40 minutes long. And we're just going to discuss everything that has happened in our mock offseason so far. There's been quite a bit, and we're going to have you covered. Yeah, that's the plan. Honestly, nothing too special about it. Eric, how's your day been, man?
Oh, not too bad. Just trying to get caught up after being gone the last couple days with all these trades.
Yep. So appreciate everybody that's participated in our mock offseason. If you want to join our Discord, the mock offseason is taking place in there. I posted a link in chat. I'll also post a link at the top of the description right now. And you can follow along as we discuss these trades. There's a thread in our Discord under mock offseason threads. It's called Completed Trades, and it's the trades that have happened so far. So we're going to give our honest analysis about this. If you are in our mock offseason and you made a trade and we're criticizing it, don't take it personally. It's all in good fun.
Yep, just having a good time.
Yep. We warned you we might criticize a couple moves. So there's gonna be a couple here that we're gonna be critical about. We're gonna give our thoughts on all these moves, and that's the plan. So yeah.
Happy birthday to Reese yesterday.
Happy
I kind of
birthday
went
to
off on
Reese.
him at his birthday, forgetting that it was his birthday, even though I had reminded myself like 10 times leading up to it. But yeah.
Wow, you forgot his birthday, then you went off for him for the trade
well, he made
he
a stupid
man.
trade. No, just kidding.
I mean, we'll talk about his trade a little bit later, but happy birthday to Reese.
And Madden Mobile 415 as well. Happy birthday.
And happy birthday to Madam Mobile. It's everybody's birthday. So happy birthday to all of you.
Taylor Packer's great grandfather as well, Gerald.
Happy birthday to Gerald too. So yeah, if you want to follow along as we talk about these trades, go to the completed trades tab, and that way you can like visually see things. So we're just gonna go through. There's been I think 22 trades. So we're just gonna start from the top. The first trade we had in our mock offseason, they had to make it super complex. It was a 4-team trade. You have the Kings getting Kyle Anderson, Marc Gasol, KCP, McKinney, the 17th pick, 51st pick. They're sending out the 9th pick to Memphis in this. Memphis is getting Marvin Bagley as well from the Kings. The Lakers are getting Buddy Hield, and the OKC Thunder are giving up a second to take on Kyle Kuzma. So we're just going to break this down from each side. You got the Kings trading out Buddy Hield. They're getting back a lot of pieces to match salary. And they're trading down from 9 to 17 in this trade in the draft. And they're also giving up Marvin Bagley. What'd you think about this trade from the from Sacramento's side of things, Eric?
I mean, Kyle Anderson's a nice player. Yeah, I don't like when teams that are like fringe playoff teams or like not like in the Kings case making the playoffs for how many years, 14 years or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't like when they make moves to give up or move back in the draft to get like role players. Mm-hmm. So not a huge fan of it. It kind of reminds me of their offseason a couple years ago where they signed Trevor Ariza, Dwayne Dedman, Corey Joseph, and that completely blows up. They thought bringing in those vets would help solidify their young core and take them into the playoff level. And none of those signings ended up working out for them. Now, guys like KCP, who's now a champion-level player. You got Kyle Anderson, who had a really good season. So some of those guys can, be a little better than the other guys I just mentioned. But, yeah, it's not I don't know. I don't like that the Kings moved down in this deal and gave up Bagley or gave up on a young player like him on a rookie deal.
Yeah, I agree with that. Let's actually try and get this trade on the screen. I'm going to get screenshots of these trades as we go along here just so everybody can see. So just give me a second. I'll try and mock off-season trades. Create a folder here for this. And trade one. There we go. All right. So I'll put this up on the screen, actually.
So Taylor Packer says Kings fans want Bagley gone. They're done with him. Even if that's true, they don't want him just gone for nothing. They think they want him gone because they think he's a good trade piece, or some team would covet him as a kind of reclamation product, or a second pick that they can do something with still.
Yep, there you go. There's the trade on the screen. I'll move our cameras up. I'll have to rearrange things as we go, because some trades will be taller or smaller or whatever. But I don't like moving down from 9 to 17. I thought without the draft picks in this deal for Sacramento, it would have been fine. But moving down to 9, from 9 to 17, I also agree is a mistake. For Memphis, they trade out Kyle Anderson and get back Marvin Bagley, move up from 17 to 9, and then basically move up from 51 to 22 as well. I really like this trade for Memphis. Kyle Anderson's a really good player, but we got a follow-up move that Memphis did after this, moving up from 9th to 2nd, which is just phenomenal. Jackson is running the Grizzlies. I think Jackson has done a really good job so far. I like this trade from Memphis's end.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, there's some of these pieces don't stay with them, but if we're just focusing on this trade, you get Bagley, who kind of fits in with their core a little better than Anderson does, so you capitalized on him. Like you said, you move up 8 spots in the draft for doing so as well. Like that's crazy value, and you pick up another first round pick. I don't know how Jackson could have done better for trading out Kyle Anderson in the 17th pick here.
Yep, I agree with that. What about the Lakers? They're giving up. Let me go back here. They're giving up Marc Gasol, KCP, McKinney, and Kuzma, as well as the 22nd overall pick, and getting back Buddy Hield. What do you think about Isaac's job? Isaac's running the Lakers.
I actually kind of like this. I think Hield, that's a spot where he can get a lot better shots than he got in Sacramento. And I think he'll thrive in that role of just being like a spot-up shooter, but like maybe occasionally having to play make a little bit. But I kind of like them going forward. I think Hield is realistically, I know they like to, the Laker fans like to player swap like every good player in the league, including Dame, for that same package. But realistically, Buddy Hield is about as good as you're going to get for KCP and Kuzma and a late first-round pick. So didn't mind it from the Lakers' perspective. I thought it was a decent move if you're trying to find another good complementary piece. That I think he fits better than like Schroeder did, or Montrezl Harrell, like some of those guys they brought in last offseason. So yeah, I like this from the Lakers' point of view too.
Yeah, Isaac did a solid job with this one. He's trading a lot of depth away though, so it remains to be seen. He's going to have to fill some spots because he's kind of struggling for depth at the moment. And then OKC gets Kuzma back for a second. What do you think about that?
I'm not a big Kuzma fan, so I don't really like that a lot, but I mean, it was pretty cheap, so I don't blame Oklahoma City for taking a flyer on Kuzma. I probably wouldn't have done that, but I don't think it's like the worst thing ever.
Yep. Alrighty, let's move on to the second trade, which had, I'm going to have to rearrange things here. There we go. This had the Bulls trading Patrick Williams, Al-Farouq Aminu, Thaddeus Young, and Troy Brown Jr. for John Wall, making $40 million a year, the 23rd pick, the 24th pick, a 2024 Lakers second, a 2027 Lakers second. We're just going to start with Chicago, and Malcolm's running Chicago, and Malcolm's already taken some heat for this. My goodness, you're trading Patrick Williams, a 4th overall pick in last year's draft, who had a really solid rookie season after everybody thought they reached on him. You're trading a really good role player in Thaddeus Young, who's on a decent contract, making $13 million. He kind of had a big season last year, and Troy Brown Jr. is a guy that can play as well. And you're taking on salary, and you're taking on maybe the worst contract in the league for John Wall who hasn't played more than 41 games in any season the last 4 years. I know you get a couple first-round picks back here, but I think this may have been the worst trade so far in the mock offseason for Chicago, and Houston just gets an amazing package back.
Varsity must be a Malcolm Burner. It says, as a Bulls fan, I love this trade. Just kidding.
Exposed.
Yeah, so in real life, if I'm Houston and someone offers me expiring picks and I have to give up a couple picks to get rid of John Wall, I take that gladly. Mm-hmm. And so the fact that they got two good young players, one, I mean, coming off his rookie year, he still has pretty high ceiling and a lot of potential. And, you know, Thad Young is now a good trade piece for them moving forward. A lot of contenders could use a big that can shoot and handle the ball and make plays. And then, I ended up trading Troy Brown Jr. again. But, I mean, if GK, or who's the GM of the Houston Rockets, was going to get off John Wall's contract, I think, like, he must have been, like, beside himself that when he was offered such good pieces for him. Like, I would have just, like, last year, if someone offered me, like, Nick Batum's horrible contract or something, I probably would have taken it for John Wall if I was in charge of the Rockets or whatever. But, I don't know. I don't know how to explain this from the Bulls' point of view other than they're taking a chance, but you shouldn't have had to give up that much to take that chance.
Yeah, I mean, Kemba Walker had a better season last year than John Wall, and is on a better contract. And Boston still had to attach the 16th overall pick for him, and all they got back was Al Horford, essentially, who's on a bad contract as well. So you compare that to this deal doesn't look too good for Malcolm. This deal is a really good deal for GK and the Rockets, but GK's made a lot of trades. There's a couple coming later that I thought were pretty bad. So GK has had a mixed bag. This was a home run. He's struck out on a couple trades as well. Overall for GK, I don't know. It's a solid, but it's wild. It's a roller coaster. Yeah,
we'll get to more Rocket stuff later, but after the first couple trades, I'm like, wow, the Rockets are really doing something. And then they they just completely messed it all up, which we'll get to.
Yep. Trade 3 was Utah sending Memphis some cash to remove pick protections to free up future firsts to trade. We don't have to talk about that. The next one we're going to talk about is this one. You got the Rockets getting Bol Bol, PJ Dozier, and a second-round pick from Denver for Troy Brown Jr. I think this is a solid trade for Houston. I think it's solid for Denver as well. This was one of the more even trades I feel like we've had. I like Troy Brown Jr. And Denver, you know, they were hurt this year. I feel like they kind of needed to add a little bit of depth, especially at the wings. You know, Will Barton is pretty injury prone and Jamal Murray isn't going to be back as well. So they had a wing who can kind of be like a secondary ball handler and a little bit of a playmaker in Troy Brown Jr. So I actually like his fit on that team. They give up Bol Bol. I'm not as high on Bol Bol as like other people are. I know he's like super hyped up, but he hasn't really panned out so far. He hasn't really turned into much. PJ Dozier was a good player for him last year. I don't think he's as good as Troy Brown Jr. And then they give up a second. I think this is a pretty even trade. Houston can take a chance on Bol Bol as they're rebuilding. And then PJ Dozier's a nice piece to get back. Denver gets a piece that can maybe upgrade their team in Troy Brown.
Yeah, I thought Dozier had a really nice year, and him being out was part of the problem for the Nuggets. So I don't like including him. I agree with you that I'm not as high on Bol Bol as some people. However, because so many people are high on him, and I know he was traded for a fellow Duck, Troy Brown Jr., but there's a lot of Duck fans in this game as well. So the fact that you gave up Bol Bol, who in this type of game would probably have a lot more trade value than in real life, for such little back I think that was a mistake by the Nuggets, just to like not try to like shop him or at least announce to everyone that he's available and stuff like that, and try to get a better package back first. So that's where I think the misstep is from the Nuggets. Yeah, they shouldn't have had to include a pick in this either. But other than that, yeah, not too bad, I guess.
Yeah, pretty even trade. Solid trade for GK. Let's move on to the next trade, which is a straight-up swap. Chris Boucher to the Timberwolves, Jarrett Culver for the Raptors. What do you think about this? Who won this one, Eric?
Timberwolves easily win this, even though I get what the Raptors are doing. They're trying to get young as possible, trying to take flyers on players who were highly thought of a couple years ago. But Chris Boucher probably had a lot more value. I probably could have gotten Culver and some other pieces from other teams if you found a third team to include. But yeah, I like this team trade for the Timberwolves, even though, I mean, Boucher and Cat Boucher's kind of a poor man's Cat, so maybe a little better defensively, but so I don't know how much it really helps them, but just on paper, this trade is really good.
I like it because Boucher can protect the rim, but he can also guard on the perimeter, so he can be the 4 next to Cat and kind of shore up their rim protection there. And then he can also space the floor, so if Cat, wants to work down low, he can. I think it's a very good fit in the front court, the 4 and 5 with Cat. And you only gave up Jarrett Culver to get it. I think this would, if this trade happens in real life, this trade would actually make Minnesota noticeably better because they need help defensively. Minnesota ended the latter part of the season well, so if they're able to get somebody that fits that well for just like a Jarrett Culver, then I think that's a great move. This is the most underrated trade, in my opinion. Arshad is the one with the Timberwolves. I think it was a great move from him. He hasn't done anything else, so it'll be curious to see what else he tries to do. Minnesota doesn't have their first round pick this year. They traded it for D'Angelo Russell. That ended up being the 7th overall pick going to Golden State, which got traded a little bit later in our mock offseason. So Minnesota's kind of in a tough spot this offseason. If they can pull off a move like that, get good value for Culver and get a guy like Boucher, then I really, really like it.
Yeah, I agree.
So good job to Minnesota. Let's move on and let me.
Also, moves like that with Boucher probably still has retrade value as well. He probably got some calls from people wanting to get him as well.
Yeah, I agree. Let's move on to, was that the next trade or was it this one? Yeah, this is the next trade. All right, let me resize this. Nope, not that. This. Cool. You got Chicago trading Coby White for the 18th and 35th picks. They get a traded player exception out of this. OKC takes on Coby White with the traded player exception. What do you think of this one? Who do you think won this trade, value-wise?
I think it's pretty fair. It's probably about as good as you could trade Coby White for. I mean, he still has some potential, but people are kind of down on him compared to how they were a year or so ago. So yeah, I don't think it was a bad trade for either team. In the Bulls position, I don't know if I would have traded him for this package. But yeah, I can see it being okay for both teams.
Yeah, I like it for OKC. For the Bulls, it's okay. It's okay value. It's I wouldn't say good or bad for the Bulls. For OKC, they have so many picks that they're going to need to kind of cash those picks in for something, especially in this year's draft. They had a lot, so I actually like that move for them, and they can kind of gamble on Coby White's long-term upside. I think that's a very solid trade for OKC, and long-term, Coby White and SGA in the backcourt is kind of an intriguing fit. So SGA may be one of the better players to put next to Coby White in the backcourt fit-wise. So I like that trade for OKC. Let's move on to the next trade, which was a bit of a shocking one. You had Trevin, who is the Hawks. Let me get this resized here.
Here's where it starts to get crazy.
Yeah, you had Trevin, who's the Hawks. I don't need to include the protections. There we go. You had Trevin, who's the Hawks, trading for Brandon Ingram. He gave up a boatload of assets. He gave up DeAndre Hunter, Kevin Huerter, Cam Reddish, Onyeka Okongwu, Bruno Fernando, a 2022 first-round pick, and a 2023 second-round pick, getting back Brandon Ingram. For Trevin and the Hawks, I don't like this trade. You need defense around Trae Young. DeAndre Hunter is a better defender, and I could see DeAndre Hunter being the better player than Brandon Ingram in a couple years. You're also giving up Kevin Huerter, who's been huge on Atlanta's Eastern Conference Finals run. Okongwu's been playing solid minutes as a rookie. You're giving up a first-round pick. I think this is an overpay. I think this is definitely an overpay for Atlanta. They get older, and I don't think Ingram's that much better than Hunter at this point. Hunter was really underrated this year. He's been hurt in the playoffs, so I like this for New Orleans. They get some pieces. It'll be interesting to see if they move any of these pieces following up with that, but I think value-wise is a very good trade for New Orleans. Probably doesn't help them win next year, but in terms of value, I think Atlanta probably overpaid here. New Orleans got a pretty good deal.
I don't like it for either side.
Really?
Yeah, because for Atlanta, I kind of see you have all these young guys. None of them, I mean, they're all still young, so they could all pop, especially like Okongwu, who's only been 1 year and he didn't play that much. But I see like consolidating all these guys to the one piece that hopefully makes you have that like third star or whatever. You have an important free agent to re-sign or whatever. But so I get it, like going after a guy, like trying to target a perfect guy to add to that rotation and be like, this is our starting lineup for years or whatever. This is our 4 core guys, and then we can fill out the secondary pieces around that. I'm not the biggest Brandon Ingram fan, so I don't think that was the right person to trade. If you're going to trade all these players, I feel like you probably could have gotten a better fit there than Brandon Ingram. But then from the Pelicans side, you're trading a guy who you're going from having a good player in your starting lineup to a bunch of maybe secondary players. And if none of those players end up being as good as Brandon Ingram, which they all could end up being better, or they all could end up being worse. So I don't really like them giving up, like, in terms of value, the best player in this trade either. So, yeah, like I said, I don't really like it for either team. But if I'm just judging it, like, in a vacuum, I think New Orleans easily won the trade.
Okay, yeah, agreed with that. Let's move on and discuss, I believe this is your trade up next, Eric. No, it's not. It's Isaac and GK. Isaac trades a 2028 first and 3 future seconds for Kenyon Martin Jr. So he kind of like replaces, like he gets a depth piece without having to give anything up. And gets Kenyon Martin Jr. back from the Rockets. What do you think about this move?
I think I like Kenyon Martin Jr. a lot, but this is a massive overpay. He was a second round pick last year. Got some minutes when Houston traded away everyone, and showed some promise, but he was not worth a first and unprotected first and 3 seconds. So if I was GK, I probably would have had a tough time trading a guy like Kenyon Martin Jr. But, I mean, if someone comes and offers me that package, especially 7 years from now where LeBron would be like, 43 or something like that. So, like, LeBron's probably not there. It's way past Anthony Davis's next contract, stuff like that. The Lakers could end up being terrible at that point. So, yeah, I don't like this at all from the Lakers point of view. And then from the Rockets point of view, it's like, yeah, it's fine that I guess you pick up a ton of assets, you're rebuilding. So, like, what does it really matter if you keep Kenyon Martin or not? So, I would take the assets probably if I got offered that.
Especially considering, like, GK has, like, 20 players on his roster at this point when this was made. So, I kind of share the same sentiments. It depends. Like, if Kenyon Martin helps the Lakers win another championship, then it looks fine.
Mm-hmm.
Hypothetically, if not, then it could end up being pretty bad. It's also, I'm not sure how good Kenyon Martin Jr. is. He played minutes on a bad team and played pretty well, but obviously wasn't highly regarded coming into the draft. So, the next trade we had, was that the next trade? Yeah, that was the next trade. You had, this is the bad one for the Rockets. This is the bad one for the Rockets. This is the bad one for GK. This is where it started to go downhill. The Rockets trade the number 2 pick, DJ Augustine, Daniel House, and a future second-round pick for the 9th pick, D'Anthony Melton and Desmond Bane.
Yeah, there's potential star power, at least 4 stars in this draft, in my opinion. And for him to basically move out of number 2 and get, I mean, Melton and Bane are good players. Like, they had good years. They don't have the ceiling that the number 2 pick in this draft have. And so this is where I thought GK was doing awesome, and he was picking up assets and getting good players, and then I think he messed it all up here. This was a huge misstep, and he's going to look back at possibly like the Blazers not taking Kevin Durant or whatever, and he's going to look back and say he had the number 2 pick and could have gotten one of 4 guys at that point, and be like, oh, I got so-and-so at 9 and D'Anthony Melton who averaged like 12 points a game or whatever. Like, it's not going to look good looking back at this.
Yeah, he gave up Evan Mobley or Cade Cunningham for a couple role players. He also gave up a role player in Daniel House who's been solid. Like, I know Melton and Bane are still young, but they're not the guys that are ever going to be like star caliber players, in my opinion. They're going to be role players. They're going to be kind of what they are right now. So, I also agree that it's up there with the John Wall trade in terms of how rough this trade was. The thing is, Houston was on the right side of John Wall trade, and they're on the wrong side of this.
But for the Grizzlies, let me just say this. In the West, I hope there's expansion and the Grizzlies get moved to the Eastern Conference, because you got John Morant, you got Jaren Jackson, you have another trade coming later, and now you get like one of those guys you mentioned most likely on top of that. Like, they're going to be, that is scary for the rest of the West in a few years with those guys. I mean, John Morant's obviously not Curry, but this is like Golden State 2014 through 2016 type possibilities with those kind of with that kind of talent on the roster, all home drafted and stuff like that. So, that's just an insane job by Jackson to get from 17 to 2 and not really give up too much importance in terms of long-term success.
Yeah, Jackson's the winner so far in this mock offseason. At this point in the mock offseason, he had basically traded Kyle Anderson, the 17th pick, and the 51st pick. No, he basically traded Kyle Anderson, Desmond Bane, D'Anthony Melton, the 17th pick and the 51st pick, for the 2nd pick, Marvin Bagley, in the 22nd pick. I mean, just absolutely massive capitalization on assets there for Jackson. So, anything left on this trade?
No, good.
Do you agree that Jackson's the winner so far?
Oh, absolutely.
Yep. Alrighty. So now Eric made a trade, and he is the Pistons. The Warriors get Jeremy Grant, Joe Harris, DeAndre Jordan, Landry Shamet, the 27th pick, 49th pick, 59th pick. Nets get Wiggins, Plumlee. The Pistons get Wiseman, Claxton, the 7th pick. So on the Warriors' end, they're giving up Wiseman, Wiggins in the 7th pick. They're getting back Grant, Harris, Jordan, Shamet, and a late first, some seconds. On the Warriors' end, I wouldn't say it's terrible, but I wouldn't say it's good. I don't really like... I feel like this is an overpay. You're trading the number 2 pick from last year and the number 7 pick from this year for Jeremy Grant and some role players. and then some like later picks. I think this is a bit of an overpay. It's not, I wouldn't say necessarily it's massive, and they're a team that's trying to win, so I kind of understand it. But in terms of asset value, I think this is a bit of an overpay for Golden State.
Yeah. So, like I said, on the Pistons, I had Jeremy Grant. I like Jeremy Grant, but I wanted to get as high of a pick as possible, and also if I could also get a good young player as well. So yeah, I went into this. Golden State was my first message as soon as the trade window opened. I wanted to get. I wanted Wiseman, and when they got the number 7 pick, we had a lot of trouble because Golden State only has. They had like 4 huge salaries, and they have Wiseman, and then all the rest of their salaries were like $2 million or less. So it was really hard to make a trade work. It almost fell apart several times. But then we got Wiggins involved, and third team in the Nets, who ended up bringing some assets to the table. I do think Jeremy Grant is a really good fit on the Golden State Warriors, and I also think it's kind of scary having Harris in that offense, just spotting up for 3 with the way that team moves the ball. So I do like the thinking behind there. I think he maybe could have gotten a little more value for 7 in Wiseman, obviously, like, because I feel like I won, but I see where he was coming from with that. And
yeah.
And I think an interesting part of this trade is I think Plumlee is a good pickup for the Nets, going back to where he was drafted. I feel like his playmaking and rim protection can help them a little bit.
I don't think Plumlee's much of a rim protector, though. And then, like, the last thing they need is more playmaking. You got Kyrie, you got Harden, you got Durant, so Wiggins is an okay fit there, I guess. The Nets part of this, they're giving up Joe Harris, who I would like better than Wiggins in that offense, just better floor spacer. And then they give up a late first and Claxton, who is really underrated, and some seconds, and DeAndre Jordan isn't really valuable, and they give that up for Mason Plumlee, who I think that's an overpay asset-wise, and I don't really like Plumlee's fit on that team. I kind of disagree with you there. I just don't think the playmaking is needed at all, and they could go out and get a better rim protector. So as far as Brooklyn's end of this, I'm not the biggest fan of it.
Pretty sure Plumlee had really solid or close to really good rim protection stats.
You pretty sure? Or are you sure? I don't know the stats, but
I'm fairly confident in that. Yeah.
He's 6'10". He's not bad. I feel like they could have gotten somebody better. I feel like they should have went after a Miles Turner, and I don't like Wiggins fit in this. So it's not horrible, but I feel like they could have gotten a better rim protector who would have been a better fit. They don't really need Plumlee's playmaking all that much. And then Wiggins for Harris, I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of that swap. So as far as you go, you trade Grant and Plumlee and get back Wiseman, the 7th pick, and Claxton. That's a home run. That's a really good swap for you.
Good as I could hope for when I set up to trade Grant.
Yep. So interesting 3-team deal there. Grant could be an OKC trade option with them having the 7th pick. Let's move on to a small one. You got Josh Jackson for a 2028 second. Obviously, you didn't really care to have Josh Jackson, Eric, and Denver just kind of adds a depth piece. They use a TPE that was going to expire at some point. A solid small move for both sides.
Yeah, I was just trying to get rid of what was about to be a $5 million contract next year, try to create a trade exception to use later on, and got a second-round pick to do so. So I think it was a good trade for both teams. Nuggets get a wing defender depth, and I clear some salary.
Yep. Next trade we got is another small trade that I think is a win-win. You got the Denver Nuggets getting Marc Gasol, who's a playmaking stretch 5, provides some consistency and a backup center behind Jokic. another playmaking big. They like to back Jokic up with a playmaking big. They didn't really have that this past year. They had it in the past with Plumlee. They kind of get that with Marc Gasol. They give up Zeke Naji, who's more of a long-term piece, so it makes sense for Sacramento, in my opinion. Sacramento got Marc Gasol in the Buddy Hield trade, and Sacramento obviously is more on a futuristic timeline, rebuilding timeline, so Zeke Naji makes more sense there. I think this is a solid win-win trade.
Yeah, I don't know if Gasol really had any trade value at all, but I agree. It makes sense for both teams to get a capable big man for Nuggets and just another young prospect for the Kings.
Yep. Trade number 12. You had an interesting swap here of young players. Let me make this fit here. You had Lonnie Walker going to the Heat, Precious, Achua, and a 2022 second, which is the least favorable between Philadelphia and Denver, so that's probably a very late second going back to San Antonio. Do you think this is a win-win? Do you think this is kind of just a mad trade? Did somebody win this trade? What do you think, Eric?
I'm not super high on Lonnie Walker, and Precious is kind of this year, so I don't really have a strong opinion either way, but I do like the Spurs getting Precious under Pop and seeing if he can develop some of his skills a little bit. I'm much like Miami would have too if they kept him, but Lonnie Walker is an interesting piece fit-wise with Miami, so yeah, I don't think this is bad for either side.
Yeah. San Antonio has a lot of guards, so I think it makes sense from that perspective as well. Getting a 4 instead of a 2 guard makes some sense to kind of rebalance their positions, essentially. So, next trade we had was, let me try and get it up here. This one was a pretty big one. You had the Orlando Magic trading for Gordon Hayward. They give up the 5th pick and move down to 11. And also, they do also get a future Charlotte first. So you basically got the Magic moving down from 5 to 11, getting a Charlotte first, getting Gordon Hayward, and they're sending out Gary Harris and Terrence Ross. Value-wise, it's not bad for Orlando, but their direction, it doesn't really make sense to me. You're moving down from 5 to 11. They're rebuilding. They started a rebuild this past season, so moving down the draft to get a player that probably doesn't even help them get to the playoffs, but just makes their first-round pick next year worse, doesn't really make sense from a directional standpoint. For Charlotte, I don't really know what their plan is. They've been tied to potentially Christian Wood. They've been tied to a couple of different star players, but they're giving up Gordon Hayward and moving to 5. So I don't know. They need to choose, are they trying to win next year or are they trying to rebuild, continue a rebuild? If they're trying to continue a rebuild, I like this. They're on the brink of getting into that top 4. As you said, it's a clear-cut top 4 in this year's draft. If they can do that, that's phenomenal. You add Jalen Green or even a Jalen Suggs could fit next to LaMelo, or maybe Cunningham or Mobley falls and they can get one of them. I like that, but if they're trying to win next year, it doesn't really make a ton of sense. So it just kind of depends on what Charlotte's actual direction is here.
Yeah, I don't know if this was the worst trade value wise, but just from a plan or a focus of a GM, I think Orlando has been just about as bad as you can get. They traded Vucevic, they trade Gordon, they trade Fournier last year. Obviously, we're trying to stockpile assets and picks, and to then trade the best one of those assets for Gordon Hayward so you can be the 10th seed next year. That makes no sense to me. They had it all going. I think they were doing a phenomenal job of stockpiling assets and going young and rebuilding, and I think they messed that all up with this trade, and yeah. I don't like it at all. And I'm not trying to be harsh or anything on Ben. He says he has a plan and he's going to try and execute it, but I don't like this one at all for the Magic. I kind of get it for the Hornets and take a swing. I mean, LaMelo's still young. You can try to make the playoffs or try to be good this next year, but you're also not up against the time window or anything. So I like that as well.
Yep. I mean, we'll see Ben's plan. We'll see what he can pull off. Just this move in isolation doesn't make sense unless he's able to somehow get like a legitimate star or something. I don't know. It's just kind of a weird trade for Orlando. So we will see. But the next trade you got is Fred VanVleet to Philadelphia for Tyrese Maxey, Seth Curry, George Hill, and a second-round pick. I like this trade for both sides. The Sixers need some shot creation. They get Fred VanVleet, who's a good defender, but can also be that lead shot creator. They do give up Tyrese Maxey, which is a guy that's obviously hard to part with, and they also give up Seth Curry and George Hill, so they give up 3 guards in this one. But Fred VanVleet's the best player in the deal. They have to get some shot creation on the perimeter. They get that. Toronto's rebuilding. They get back Maxey, and they can potentially flip Curry and Hill for other rebuilding assets. I think this is a solid deal for both teams.
Yeah, I actually low-key really like VanVleet on the Sixers. I think that was a great move. They didn't have to give up Harris, Simmons, or Embiid to get him. A championship experienced point guard who, VanVleet secretly had in a phenomenal year. He improved defensively. He got some votes for all defensive team. He's a lot better than people give him credit for, and I think he's going to fit in really well on that team. Like you said, giving up 3 key guards from that team, but once again, it's a little easier to fill in around the edges. You pick up a shooter, maybe cheap vet shooter to replace Curry. That's going to be hard to do because Curry was really good for them, but overall, I like when teams go for it and try to improve how good their top players are and fill in the pieces around that versus just trying to have different role players around those guys.
Yep, agreed. All right, next deal we have is an interesting one as well. You got let me fit this to the screen here. You got the Grizzlies trading for Miles Turner, giving up Dillon Brooks, Marvin Bagley, Jonte Porter, Concar, and a 2022 first. They also move up from 22 to 13 in this deal. The Pacers trade Miles Turner, move down in the draft, and only get 1 future first in Dillon Brooks. I love this trade for Memphis just in terms of accumulating assets, but now it's just like they have so many bigs. You got Miles Turner, Jonas Valanciunas, Jaren Jackson Jr., Brandon Clark, Xavier Tillman. They're picking at number 2. Maybe that's Evan Mobley as well. I assume there's going to be a follow-up move here in terms of asset accumulation. I think this is a good trade. It's just definitely like they got to figure out that logjam in the front court there if they're able to get back, good assets for a couple of those bigs and kind of thin that out, then I think this is a good move for Memphis. For Indiana, I feel like they didn't get the best value, but Dillon Brooks is an interesting piece, I guess. They also get the 2022 first. They just shouldn't have moved down in the draft in this deal. I feel like they didn't need to do that. And that's really the one sticking point that has me kind of going for Indiana.
Yeah, I don't get that part at all. You give up, once again, the best player in the deal, and you move down in the draft. That doesn't make sense at all. So if I was them, I would not have had that part included. It's not bad for Indiana. I don't think it's horrible. But once again, on paper, Jackson wins another trade, in my opinion.
Yep, agreed. For Indiana, they have to trade Turner this offseason. He doesn't fit with Sabonis, so I get the trading him part. Just feel like they can get back a better package for that. The next trade, this is the trade that Eric was giving Reese crap for. You got the Kings giving up Woodard, who's just kind of a meaningless piece, an unprotected 2023 first, and a lightly protected 2025 first for Darius Garland. Kings have a lot of guards. They got Fox. They got Halliburton. They traded Hield, so they thinned that out a little bit. But they got DeLon Wright as well. And they're trading for Darius Garland, who I don't think fits with Fox, but he's good enough where like he's not gonna want to come off the bench most likely. I don't know. This was I feel like just not a move that made sense in terms of roster fit for Reese. For Cleveland, Garland and Sexton probably isn't the back, like, probably doesn't fit, so you probably got to trade one of them. The rumors are Sexton, but it ends up being Garland in this trade. You get a 2023 first from Sacramento, which could be the number 1 overall pick if Sacramento doesn't improve their roster. So I think it was an overpay for Sacramento. I think Cleveland got back pretty solid assets with a chance of being really, really good assets back for Garland. So I like this trade for Cleveland. I think you got to trade one of those two. For Sacramento, I don't really understand it.
Yeah, so my problem is if you're giving up 2 picks that good picks, one unprotected and one lightly protected, you better be getting like the missing piece. It's not like Portland trading for Rocco last year where you're getting you're basically giving 2 non-lottery picks for Rocco, so it's not like the end of the world. It ended up being 16 and 23 or whatever for Rocco, which isn't bad at all. But in this case, the Kings, like you said, that pick isn't guaranteed. They're not guaranteed to make the playoffs after this trade. In fact, I'd still think they're on the outside looking in compared to other teams. So some of their competition for those last seeds, like a Golden State and a Memphis, both got better. So I find it hard when I'm a team that is not guaranteed to be a playoff team trading that good of assets in the future. I wouldn't do it if I was the GM of a non-playoff team. So that's why I don't like it. And then you add on top of it, you had Halliburton, you have Fox. Like, even if you trade Wright or move him or don't play him or whatever, that still doesn't leave a ton of minutes for Garland. And if you're not playing him a ton of minutes, you're not going to develop him as much. And that kind of leaves it a situation where you're basically traded 2 first-round picks for a backup guard. And that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And Darius Garland could turn out to be really good. And I understand why the Cavs gave up on him getting this kind of value. But yeah, I just don't like that move from that kind of team to give up future and now have your future in doubt and also doesn't make you a playoff team.
Yep. Little Woj bomb. Jason Kidd is finalizing a deal to become Dallas's next head coach. So we'll talk about that a little bit more on Thursday and see if some more coaching dominoes fall. You had Rick Carlisle today. Or Monday, yeah, today's Thursday. So Monday, we're going to talk some coaching stuff for sure. This is just trades. The next one is the one you guys maybe have been waiting for. You got Portland, which is being ran by me. You got Portland getting Siakam. You got the Knicks getting CJ McCollum. You got the Raptors getting Kevin Knox. The 19th pick, the 21st pick, 3 more future firsts and 2 future seconds. The Raptors get back 5 firsts and 2 second-round picks for Siakam. New York is using cap space that they'll have in free agency to absorb CJ McCollum. Portland is giving up Siakam, their 2022 first, their 2025 first, and a couple seconds. They're giving up McCollum, 2 firsts and 2 seconds for Siakam. What are your thoughts on this trade, Eric? Obviously, I'm involved in this, so I'm just going to get your take on this.
Well, for the Blazers, if we got Siakam, if this trade happened in real life, I think it's a game changer. I think Portland would be finally in a position to take that next step. I think they would be definitively better. This might sound funny to say, but I think they might be better on offense too, because Siakam can handle the ball and play make and be kind of a point forward type. Obviously, he's not as good a shooter as CJ, but you could still fill in the shooting at the other positions, the guard position. So I would love this trade as a Blazer fan. From the Knicks perspective, I know they're interested in real life, so this isn't like crazy for them. And they didn't have to give up any of their good young players. They give up Knox as the only player they give up. So they got to keep Toppin, they got to keep Emmanuel Quickley, Mitchell Robinson. They got to keep all those guys, which I would have demanded at least one of those guys if I'm Toronto in this deal instead of Knox. But yeah, so I get it. It's just kind of the Knicks stand to be, for the first time in a long time, not only do they have the cap space this summer, but they're actually in a position to attract free agents, unlike years past where they've gotten the cap space and haven't been able to do that. So I thought using their cap space and getting CJ and now not being able to basically make many other moves this summer kind of hamstrung them a little bit. But overall, the value isn't too bad, considering they only gave up Knox, 19, 21, and a protected first-round pick in the future. So not too bad from their perspective.
I think it just depends on like how good CJ could be for them, because I think like if he's like the top perimeter option on his own team in the Eastern Conference, he could be like kind of close to Bradley Beal. Not as good as Bradley Beal, but I think he could be 27 points per game, 5 assists. You know what I mean? And then you're kind of getting close to Bradley Beal territory, which Bradley Beal, you'd have to give up more than this. You'd have to give him multiple young players for. For New York, relying on using cap space to get guys hasn't worked out in the past, so I'm not as against that as you. Obviously, that's just kind of more of a gamble where you're for sure getting a legitimate player in CJ here. They also still have Dallas's 2023 first. They have their 2022 first and then 2024 first throughout, so they have a first in every single year after it, so it's not like they're completely giving up all their draft capital, so maybe they can make a follow-up move, maybe a move at the deadline next year. They still have all their young pieces to include, and then maybe this deal looks better where CJ McCollum is number 2 or number 3 if you're able to trade for a star. So I like this deal for New York. What do you think about Toronto's haul?
So if you just like step back and say, oh, got 5 first-round picks, 2 seconds, a huge trade exception, it's not terrible, but then when you look at it a little closer, I mean, 19 and 21 are okay, but the Knicks with CJ added to that team and basically not taking away anyone from the team last year other than Knox, who didn't play, they should be just as good, if not better. So that pick probably isn't going to be a lottery pick. And then if our 2022 first for you isn't going to be a lottery pick. So you're talking about 20 or below probably for both of those picks. And then who knows what happens at 2025. But the fact that it turns into a second after 2 years, I didn't like that. I would have held out to make those go down to unprotected instead of I mean, I don't know if you would have still done it, but in my opinion, I would have held out and not done it until I got a little bit less protection on those picks and gotten at least one of those unprotected or a better player than Kevin Knox. So when you combine all those things, I don't like it for Toronto. I can see the reasoning, the direction, and all that, and a little bit depends on the TPE use. He's got a huge $27 million one, but I would not... if I was a Raptors fan, I would not be happy about this trade.
Yeah, I'm a little higher on it for them because this draft is loaded, so they could potentially package the 19th and 21st picks to move up to maybe like close to the late lottery-ish if there's a guy there that they really, really like, or if there's a couple guys they really like, 19 and 21, then they can sit back and get two prospects, and this is a really deep draft, so they would, in this trade, to make it worth it in reality, they'd have to like hit not necessarily like a home run. They have to get like a really solid prospect, a really good prospect back with a couple of firsts that they got from New York this year, whether that's trading them up or staying at 19 and 21. That would kind of be the wait and see moment on that deal. They'd have to get something legitimate out of that. Also, but with the money savings, if they can kind of turn that in, maybe take on a bad contract or two since they're going rebuild mode and accumulate more future first, and they're starting to become like an OKC sort of rebuild, and they have a lot of maneuverability in future drafts. So, obviously, I'm gonna I'm a little bit biased since I'm involved in this deal, but I think it was solid for all teams involved and a great trade for Portland.
See, for me, kind of being in a similar position, Toronto ends up with the 4th pick in the lottery, which was good for them. would be really scary if they get the 4th pick in real life. But like, I would have tried to get a better pick in this draft than 19 and 21 kind of do, similar to what I did, and try to get the highest pick possible. You saw Memphis negotiate through trades all the way to 2, and add a Miles Turner and get the 13th pick. So like, the fact that he gets the 19th and 21st pick when you watch all the moves a team like Memphis did to get the 2nd pick. Can you imagine if Toronto was sitting there with like 2 and 4 right now instead of 19 to 21? So that's just kind of what my mindset would have been. So Toronto does have the 4th pick in real life. Sorry.
Yeah,
I don't know. The lottery was real.
Yeah, maybe could have gotten a little bit better value on that, I guess. But
yeah, I mean, it's not awful. I don't think it would happen like that in real life, but yeah, not terrible.
Yeah,
but I love it for the Blazers.
This next trade we pulled off together, Eric, I get Ellaby. You get Ellaby, I get Okafor in the 42nd pick. I love this trade for me. I hate this trade for you. No, I'm just kidding. You're just getting back a pick in this draft. I got the 47 pick back, so now I have 42 and 47 I like that. I wanted to trade into the second round this year's draft. I think there's some good players that are going to be selected in the second round. Could also maybe package them and move up, depending on how the draft goes. So I like this trade for me. Your end of it?
I basically was looking for some cheap filler contracts to get some cap holds taken away, and I had 3 second-round picks, and I wanted to get off of Jaleel makes a little more than Ellaby next year, think about like $600,000, and I'm trying to maneuver a trade that I need like every dollar counts for, or doing some things down the road. So worst case scenario, I take a flyer on Ellaby. Best case scenario, it helps me just get a little bit more cap space to pull something off later.
Yep, and then the last trade we are going to talk about is one that just happened a little bit ago. The Bucks finally get their Bogdanovic, and they give up Brook Lopez, DiVincenzo, Nworo, and a 2023 second. Creates a gaping hole at center. So depending on how Milwaukee fills that, is going to kind of affect the evaluation of this trade. I think Milwaukee's given up a bit of value. Atlanta gets Brook Lopez to back up Capella, I guess. I don't know. It's just kind of a weird trade for both teams.
Yeah, I started a fake rumor that Bogdan is mad because he was pissed at the Bucks that they tried to trade for him and sign a trade without asking for him, so he hates the Bucks, and I just started that rumor. So that's going to be the thing going forward, that he's going to be he's going to whine a lot and not like playing for the Bucks. I'm just kidding, but yeah, I mean, Trevin, after trading away like 8 players for Ingram or whatever it was, he needed to fill in some depth. Yeah. I wouldn't have taken on Brook in his position. I don't like Brook's contract. It's still several years at like $12 million or so. But DiVincenzo is a decent player to kind of fill that Kayvon Herter role that now that he's gone. But yeah, I mean, it's a solid trade value wise, I guess. Fills a need for both teams.
Yep. Nick says, how can they trade when they're both still playing? Because it's the mock-off season.
It's a game, really,
yeah. We're not going to make it so that these, whoever makes the finals can't do anything for
the finals are after our draft.
Yeah, exactly. But interesting trade. Milwaukee's going to have to follow this up and get a center. Atlanta does add depth, so that's good. Burke Lopez behind Capella might be a little bit of overkill, but at least they got consistent rim protection there. And then DiVincenzo replaces Bogdanovic because they're trading Bogdanovic out. So they still got to replace that Herter role, in my opinion. So Atlanta's not done. Milwaukee's not done. It'll be interesting to see what both those teams do. So anyway, that is all the trades we have to cover. I did flip Okafor for a protected second-round pick. I didn't really care to have Okafor, so I did flip him for a future second. Didn't feel like that was all that meaningful.
Yeah, which I would.
Why you laughing at that? Is that what you wish you did?
No, yeah, I was like, I mean, because I contacted a bunch of people just like, hey, do you want Okafor for free or whatever?
Yeah.
No one said anything, so then I was like, plan B, I'll just try to get like a second rounder that no one really cares about. And yeah, so, but I will say, like, we always talk about how like you get frustrated because like I never want to trade with you and I always ask for too much and vice versa. Like,
yeah,
like we don't want to like get fleeced by the other one. That would be like the worst thing ever. So like we like try to negotiate a trade and it never works out. But this was like the easiest trade ever. I'm like, hey, would you want the number 42 pick for CJ Ellaby? And you were like, yeah. And then I was like, how about, would you take Jill Okafor? And you were like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, deal. Yeah. And like, that was it.
Yeah, I know. I was surprised. I was like, wow, Eric's not trying to absolutely fleece me. This is interesting. So, yeah, you know, I know a lot. I took a little bit of heat, but like, getting back the 42nd pick in this year's draft, I'll take that. Especially since I flipped Okafor into a future second. You know, it's top 40 protected, so I won't get it unless it's 41 or lower, so it might be a situation where I don't get it all, but still, being able to get the 42nd pick, I like a lot of prospects in the second round, so it'll be fun to kind of figure out who exactly I want to pick from that bunch.
Yep.
So, anyway, that's going to wrap up the stream. I got food to go pick up. We will be live again on Monday, and we'll talk coaching hires. That will probably be a little bit more, a little longer stream. We'll talk more trades from the mock-off season. Then we definitely got to talk some coaching hires. If the Blazers hire a coach anytime soon, we'll have a impromptu stream for that. So that is the plan. Mailbag should drop this weekend. If you want to ask a question, go to the comment section of the previous mailbag and leave a question there. Anything else left to plug, Eric?
No, thank everyone for watching. Appreciate it. Sorry we didn't really talk about the real NBA, but just kind of fun to see
we do it on Twitter, so go hit it. Yeah, we do it on Twitter. Go hit us up on Twitter if you want that.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that's going to wrap things up. Thank you all for watching. I hope you have a good rest of your night and have a good weekend. Try to stay cool in this insane heat that we're about to get. I cannot wait, and that's definitely sarcasm because I don't got AC, so I might die. But hopefully I see you all on Monday. Until then, enjoy this insane heat wave. So, until next time, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.